Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about our sponsor, Factor. Factor is a meal service that takes the hassle out of meal prep and planning. Factor's no-hassle prepared meals are designed by dietitians for maximum nutrition and flavor. Unlike other meal services, Factor cooks your meals ahead of time so it arrives ready to heat and eat within minutes. This helps you avoid all of the prep work and cleanup that comes with cooking. But this isn't just some fast food or TV dinner style service. These meals offer fresh, never frozen ingredients across a variety of preferences. They are for traditional meals as well as keto, calorie smart, vegetarian, and vegan. There are over 25 meal options each week, so you'll never get tired of the meals delivered to your door. Personally, the best thing about Factor to me is that it offers convenient nutrition. Nowadays, the only quick options are unhealthy fast food or over-processed, stale-tasting frozen dinners. Factor's meals ensure that you always have something nutritious and delicious on hand. It saves time for prep, cooking, and cleanup. It gives you the time back to focus on the things that you love to do. So give Factor a try today. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use the code POGPWPJAN60 for 60% off of your first box. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's video. When you give them a try, you help support us to continue offering you all great content, like tonight's game. So thanks. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Beth piloting the Gitrog monster. This is a graveyard-based combo deck that tries to loop Dakmor Salvage with its commander to draw the deck and win. Beth's opening hand contains a Putrefy, Exploration, Gitrog Tree Speaker, Forest, Snow-Covered Forest, Swamp, and an Ashes to Ashes. Next, we have Cal piloting Nymris, Una's Trickster. This is a control deck that uses its commander's ability to generate card advantage and eventually win with Athas's Oracle line. Cal's opening hand contains a Dimir Signet, Felwar Stone, Impulse, Mana Confluence, Cyclonic Rift, an Offer You Can't Refuse, and his London Mulligan is a Cursed Totem. After that, we have Claire piloting the partner pair of Tymna the Weaver and Kraum, Ludovic's Opus. This deck, called Blue Farm, tries to play a mid-range game using its commanders for card advantage or pivot into an ad nauseum for an Oracle or Breach line. Claire's opening hand contains a Deflecting Swat, Windfall, Jeweled Lotus, Chain of Vapor, Spire of Industry, Chrome Mox, and her London Mulligan is an Imperial Seal. Finally, we have Noah piloting Omnath, Locus of Creation. This is a mid-range deck that uses its commander to generate value before going for a win with Infinite Finale of Devastation loops or Dockside. Noah's opening hand contains a Plateau, Otawara Soaring City, Noble Hierarch, Soul Ring, Phantasmal Image, Rhystic Study, and a Winds of Rebuke. Without further ado, let's kick off this pretty petty particular positioning pontification. Beth won the cake toss and gets to start us off. Beth draws a card for turn and plays a Snow-Covered Forest. She casts Exploration. She plays a Forest as her Exploration land for turn. She casts a Gitrog Tree Speaker. Beth passes. Cal draws and plays a Mana Confluence. He casts a Jeweled Lotus and passes to Claire. Claire draws and plays a Spire of Industry. She casts a Jeweled Lotus. She casts a Chrome Mox, imprinting Chain of Vapor. She cracks her Lotus to help cast her commander, Kraum, Ludovic's Opus. She moves to Combat and attacks Cal with Kraum. Cal takes it and Claire ends her turn. Noah draws and plays a Tundra. He casts a Soul Ring and ends his turn. Beth draws and plays a Swamp. She casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. She casts her commander, the Gitrog monster. She casts Scheming Symmetry, targeting Noah. Both her and Noah fetch up a card onto the top of their libraries. Beth ships the turn to Cal. Cal draws, plays a Sunken Ruins, and passes. Claire draws and plays an Underground Sea. She moves to Combat and attacks Beth with Kraum. Beth takes it, and Claire gives the turn to Noah. Noah draws and casts a Mana Crypt. He plays an Otawara Soaring City as his land for turn. He casts Rhystic Study. Kraum triggers and Claire draws. In response, Cal taps his Mana Confluence and sacks his Jeweled Lotus to flash in his commander, Nymris, Una's Trickster. Rhystic resolves and Noah passes. During her upkeep, Beth sacrifices a Forest to Gitrog. Gitrog triggers and Beth draws. She draws for turn and levels up Gitrog Tree Speaker. She moves to Combat and attacks Claire with the Gitrog monster. Claire takes it, and in her second main phase, Beth plays a Dakmor Salvage into play tapped. Beth gives the turn to Cal. Cal draws and taps his Mana Confluence to cast Felwar Stone. Rhystic triggers and Noah draws. Cal passes. At the end of Cal's turn, Claire casts Snapback, targeting the Gitrog monster, paying the Rhystic tax. Gitrog bounces, and the turn moves to Claire. Claire draws and plays a Morphic Pool. She taps her Spire of Industry to cast her other commander, Tymna the Weaver. She moves to Combat and attacks Beth with Kraum. Beth takes it, and in her second main phase, Claire pays a life and draws a card through Tymna. All through, Claire passes. During his upkeep, Noah wins his Mana Crypt flip. He draws and plays a City of Brass. He casts Phantasmal Image. It enters as a copy of Kraum. He moves to Combat and attacks Claire with Kraum. Claire takes it, and Noah ships the turn to Beth. Beth draws and casts Arcane Signet, paying the Rhystic tax. She casts Ashes to Ashes, targeting both Kraums. Both Kraums, Rhystic Study, and Phantasmal Image all trigger. Noah sacrifices his Kraum, Noah draws through Rhystic, and then Claire and Noah draw through Kraum. In response, Claire casts Deflecting Swat for its alternate cost, targeting Ashes to Ashes. Rhystic triggers and Noah draws. In response, Cal casts an Offer You Can't Refuse, targeting SWAT. Nymris triggers, Cal looks at the top two, putting Muddle the Mixture into his graveyard. Then Offer counters SWAT, and Claire creates two treasures. Then the other Kraum is exiled, and Beth takes 5 damage. With nothing else, Beth passes. Cal draws, holds open mana, and passes. Claire draws and moves to combat. She attacks Noah with Tymna. Noah takes it, and Claire gains 2 life. In her second main phase, she pays a life and draws a card through Tymna. She plays a Watery Grave into play untapped, paying 2 life. She taps her Spire of Industry to cast Gamble. Rhystic triggers and Noah draws. Then Claire fetches up a card into her hand and then randomly discards a Diabolic Intent. She casts Ad Nauseam. Rhystic triggers and Noah draws. In response, Cal taps his Mana Confluence to cast Frantic Search. Rhystic triggers and Noah draws again. Nymris triggers, Cal looks at the top 2, putting Chrome Mox into his graveyard. Then Frantic Search resolves, Cal draws 2, discards 2, and untaps up to 3 lands. Unfortunately, no one has any answers, and Ad Nauseam resolves. Claire reveals a Ledger Shredder, March of Swirling Mist, Luxury Suite, Plateau, An Offer You Can't Refuse, Mystical Tutor, Ancient Tomb, Imperial Seal, Swan Song, Polluted Delta, Mana Crypt, Scrubland, Wishclaw Talisman, Blood Crypt, Reel of Fortune, Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, Simian Spirit Guide, Dothy Voidwalker, Underworld Breach, and a Reign of Filth, deciding to stop there. She casts Reign of Filth, and Noah draws through Rhystic. She casts a Mana Crypt, and Noah draws again. She sacks her Morphic Pool for a black through Reign of Filth to help cast Wishclaw Talisman, paying the Rhystic tax. She activates Wishclaw, fetching up a card into her hand and giving Wishclaw to Cal. She exiles Simian Spirit Guide from her hand, adding a red. She sacks 2 lands to help cast Dockside Extortionist. It enters, and Claire creates 7 treasures. She casts Underworld Breach, and Noah draws through Rhystic. She escapes Gamble, and Noah draws again. She fetches up a card into her hand and then randomly discards Mystical Tutor. She casts Silence, and Noah draws through Rhystic. In response, Cal casts Cyclonic Rift, targeting Underworld Breach. Rhystic triggers, and in response, Noah casts Mystical Tutor. He fetches up a Silence of his own onto the top of his library. Then Rhystic resolves, and Noah draws. Noah then taps the City of Brass to cast Silence. In response, Claire casts Miscast, targeting Silence. Rhystic triggers, and Noah draws. Miscast resolves, countering Noah's Silence. With Cyclonic Rift still on the stack, Claire casts Swan Song. Rift is countered, and Cal creates a 2/2 bird. With no other answers, Claire's Silence resolves, locking out opponents to the stern. Claire escapes Gamble, randomly discarding Wheel of Fortune. She casts Lion's Eye Diamond. She sacks it, discards her hand, and adds 3 blue. She escapes Brain Freeze with all copies targeting herself, milling her library. She escapes Lion's Eye Diamond again and sacks it for 3 more blue. She escapes Thassa's Oracle. Oracle enters, and Claire wins the game. Well, that was an awesome game, so let's go again. In this game, Cal brings back Nymris, Una's Trickster, and his opening hand contains a Wishclaw Talisman, Island, Verdant Catacombs, Brainstorm, Jeweled Lotus, and his Lana Mulligans are Notion Thief and Misdirection. Next, we have Claire piloting Winota, Joiner of Forces. This is a stacks deck that uses its commander's ability to cheat stacks pieces onto the battlefield and then closes out the game with combat damage or creature-based combos. Claire's opening hand contains a Prismatic Vista, Mother of Runes, Ornithopter, Mana Vault, Aven Mind Sensor, Plains, and a Needle Verge Pathway. Noah brings back Omnath, Locus of Creation. In his opening hand contains an Arid Mesa, Marsh Flats, Ephemerate, Mystic Remora, Gamble, Swords to Plowshares, and his Lena Mulligan is a Deadeye Navigator. Beth brings back the Gitrog monster. In her opening hand contains a Utopia Sprawl, Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, Swamp, Forest, Infernal Grasp, and her Lena Mulligans are Misty Rainforest and Fabled Passage. And Cal gets to start us off. Cal draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He casts a Jeweled Lotus and passes. Claire draws and plays a Plains. She casts Mother of Runes. She casts Ornithopter. Claire ends her turn. Noah draws and plays a Marsh Flats. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Tundra onto the battlefield. He casts a Mystic Remora and passes to Beth. Beth draws and casts a Mana Crypt. Remora triggers and Noah draws. She plays a Forest for turn. She casts Utopia Sprawl on her Forest and Noah draws off of Remora. It enters and Beth names black. Beth passes to Cal. Cal draws and cracks his Verdant Catacombs, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He plays an island for turn. Cal passes. Claire draws and plays a Prismatic Vista. She cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a mountain onto the battlefield. She casts a Mana Vault, and Noah draws from Remora. She casts a Giver of Runes. She casts an Ornithopter of Paradise. Claire gives the turn to Noah. During his upkeep, Noah lets his Remora die. He draws and plays an Arid Mesa. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Taiga onto the battlefield. He casts Carpet of Flowers. He moves to his second main phase and adds 2 red through his carpet. He casts Gamble. He fetches up a card into his hand and then randomly discards a Silence. He casts Dockside Extortionist. In response, Cal cracks his Jeweled Lotus to flash in his commander, Nymris, Una's Trickster. Then Dockside enters and Noah creates 5 treasures. Noah casts Ephemerate, targeting Dockside. Dockside flickers and Ephemerate exiles. Dockside enters and Noah creates 5 more treasures. Noah casts Underworld Breach. In response, Cal casts Fierce Guardianship for its alternate cost, targeting Breach. In response, Noah casts Muddle the Mixture, countering Fierce. Then Breach resolves. Noah escapes Gamble, randomly discarding an offer you can't refuse. He casts Brain Freeze with all copies targeting himself, milling some of his library. He escapes Lotus Petal twice, cracking it for 2 blue. He escapes Phantasmal Image. It enters as a copy of Dockside, creating more treasures. He escapes Brain Freeze again, with all copies targeting himself. He escapes Lion's Eye Diamond. He escapes Eladamri's Call. He fetches up an Emil the Blessed into his hand. He cracks his LED, discards his hand, and adds 3 white. He escapes Emil the Blessed. He escapes LED again. He cracks his LED to activate Emil, flickering Dockside. Dockside enters, creating more treasures. Noah presents a loop of generating infinite treasures through Emil and Dockside. He casts as commander Omnath, Locus of Creation. It enters and Noah draws. He escapes Eternal Witness. It enters and Noah returns Gaia's Cradle from his graveyard to his hand. He escapes Final Fortune, getting another turn. He passes the turn to himself, sacrificing Underworld Breach. Noah draws and activates Emil, flickering Eternal Witness. Witness enters and Noah returns Finale of Devastation to his hand. He casts Finale of Devastation where X equals 80,085, pumping his creatures. He moves to combat, attacks with everything, and Noah wins the game. Well, that game was super quick, so let's do one more. In this game, Claire brings back Winota, Joiner of Forces, and her opening hand contains an Enlightened Tutor, Plains, Gingerbrute, Goldhound, Legion Warboss, Cavern of Souls, and her London Mulligan is a Goblin Rabblemaster. Next, we have Noah piloting Grolnok, the Omnivore. This deck tries to mill out its library with its commander and assembles a Thassa's Oracle Win. Noah's opening hand contains a Verdant Catacombs, City of Traders, Mental Misstep, Chrome Mox, Jeweled Lotus, Imposter Mech, and his London Mulligan is a Cyclonic Rift. Beth brings back the Gitrog monster, and her opening hand contains a Fabled Passage, Dothy Voidwalker, Demonic Tutor, Marsh Flats, Swamp, and her London Mulligans are Heroic Intervention and a Swamp. Cal brings back Nymris, Una's Trickster, and his opening hand contains a Marsh Flats, Dark Ritual, Consider, Ad Nauseam, Misty Rainforest, Dimir Signet, and a Mana Ball. And Claire gets to start us off. Claire draws and plays a Plains. She casts Gingerbrute. She moves to combat, attacking Cal with Gingerbrute. Cal takes it, and Claire passes. Noah draws and casts Chrome Mox, imprinting Imposter Mech, which he should not have been able to do since it's an artifact. Magic is hard, moving on. He casts Jeweled Lotus. He cracks his Lotus to help cast his commander, Grolnok the Omnivore. He plays a Verdant Catacombs for turn. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a tropical island onto the battlefield. He casts a Birds of Paradise and passes to Beth. Beth draws and plays a Marsh Flats. She cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Overgrown Tomb onto the battlefield untapped, paying 2 life. Beth passes. Cal draws and plays a Misty Rainforest. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts a Mana Vault and gives the turn to Claire. During her upkeep, Claire casts Enlightened Tutor. She fetches up a Jeweled Lotus onto the top of her library. She draws and casts Jeweled Lotus. She plays a Cavern of Souls, naming Humid as it enters. She cracks her Jeweled Lotus to help cast her commander, Winota, Joiner of Forces. She moves to combat and attacks Cal with Gingerbrute. Winota triggers, Claire looks at the top 6, putting Drannith Magistrate onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking Cal. Cal takes it, and Claire ends her turn. Noah draws and plays a Command Tower. He moves to combat and attacks Beth with Grolnok. Grolnok triggers, Noah mills 3, exiling Lotus Petal and Breeding Pool into the Croak Zone. Then Beth takes it, and Noah ships the turn. Beth draws and plays a Swamp. She casts Dothy Voidwalker, much to the chagrin of Cal and Noah. Beth passes. Cal draws and plays a Marsh Flats. He cracks it, exiled under Dothy, pays a life, and fetches up a snow-covered swamp onto the battlefield. He casts Ad Nauseam. The table jumps because if he doesn't win like right now, Beth will have an Ad Naus under Dothy. With no other interaction, Ad Naus resolves, exiled under Dothy. Cal reveals an Arcane Signet, Island, Windfall, Mana Confluence, Chain of Vapor, Impulse, Dothy Voidwalker, Clearwater Pathway, Brazen Borrower, Malevolent Hermit, An Offer You Can't Refuse, Grim Monolith, Delay, Cabal Pit, Pact of Negation, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, Mox Diamond, Soul Ring, Sensei's Divining Top, Mystic Remora, Command Tower, Thassa's Oracle, Glimmer Void, and a Dark Confidant, deciding to stop there. Cal casts Mox Diamond, discarding Glimmer Void. He casts Dark Ritual. In response, Noah casts Mental Misstep. In response, Cal goes all in and casts Pact of Negation, countering Misstep. Then Dark Ritual resolves and Cal adds 3 black. He casts a Soul Ring. He casts Grim Monolith. He casts Dimir Signet. He casts Chain of Vapor, targeting his Mana Vault. Vault bounces. He sacks a land, copying the chain, bouncing Mox Diamond. He sacks a land, copying the chain, bouncing Dimir Signet, stopping the chain there. He recasts Mox Diamond, discarding Command Tower. He recasts Mana Vault. He recasts Dimir Signet. He casts Demonic Tutor, fetching up a card into his hand. He casts Thassa's Oracle. Oracle enters, and with the trigger on the stack, he casts Demonic Consultation. Consultation resolves and Cal exiles his library. Oracle's trigger resolves, and Cal wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a fun set of games tonight. Congrats to Claire, Noah, and Cal on their wins. In Game 1, Claire landed an Adnos and then fought through interaction to close out the game. In Game 2, Noah's blazing fast turn 2 win was something people did not see coming. Even though he had to move to an extra turn to close out the game, he had the resources to put himself into the best position. In Game 3, Cal's turn 2 Adnos was super fast and had to fight through a Dothy Voidwalker. He was able to navigate the stacks piece, find his line, and close out the game. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time and we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.